Okay, hi. It's time. It's time for some. We're gonna do YouTube exclusive content now. YouTube exclusive content. Ooh, I kinda made myself lightheaded. Henrik Ibsen is a famous late 19th century Norwegian playwright who wrote a whole bunch of famous plays that you might have heard of. Hedda Gabler, A Doll's House, Ghosts, and 1882's An Enemy of the People. Ibsen is a lot like Anton Chekhov because people are always calling both of them the father of modern theater, and people are always doing modern adaptations of their plays. And I think modern audiences prefer the modern adaptations to the original source material because the original source material tends to be theatrically boring as fuck. And I'm sorry, theater nerds, okay? It just is. It's boring. That's why we do the modern adaptations instead of the original source material. A Doll's House is like 2 hours of insufferable men walking around on stage calling women squirrels, and then at the very end, Nora does the only cool thing in the entire play. She leaves. She G's TFO, and she looks at her husband and her kids in her house, and she's like, peace! And that was a really radical thing at the time. That was wild, having a woman on stage do something like that. But the rest of the play is just theatrical clonopin. It's just unwatchable. We need a modern adaptation to make it more approachable for modern audiences. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that. And while we're talking about this, I think we need to have a conversation at some point about Shakespeare. Because I know a lot of you are not ready for this conversation, but Shakespeare is also boring as fuck. Like, be so for real right now. No one else is around. You don't need to admit this to anyone but yourself. 99% of every Shakespeare production you've ever seen was awful. It was just terrible. It was all you could do to stay awake through it, and you understood like maybe an eighth of the words that people were saying on stage. Even the best Shakespeare in the world, performed by the best actors in the world, most of the time your reaction is gonna be like, that didn't suck completely. And I understood more of it than I normally do. So that was pretty good. Like, look, we can honor Shakespeare and credit him for the effect that he's had on the English language and English literature, but I really think we need to stop pretending like we don't have stories written by modern writers that are more relevant to us. Did you ever watch that show Station 11? It takes place in this post-apocalyptic world, and I really like this show, but I have one major problem with it. There's this traveling band of theater artists in the show called the Traveling Circus, and they go around to different camps of apocalypse survivors and put on plays for them. Really cool, fun idea. The only problem is they only do Shakespeare. They refuse to do anything but Shakespeare. And I swear to God, if the apocalypse happens and I'm living in a survival camp somewhere and a roving band of theater artists comes through and they say that they're only going to do Shakespeare, we're eating them. I'm eating them. On site. You mean to tell me the world has ended? There are no movies anymore. There are no TV shows anymore. There are no podcasts anymore. And the only thing you can entertain me with is Richard III? Your dinner. We're eating you. Do The Matrix. Do an episode of Seinfeld. Or get so eaten. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. That's not what this video is about. That's not what I'm talking about. What am I talking about? Henrik Ibsen. So currently, there is an adaptation of Ibsen's play An Enemy of the People playing on Broadway at the Circle in the Square Theater. It's an adaptation done by Amy Herzog, and it's a production starring Jeremy Strong and Michael Imperioli. And recently, during a live performance of this adaptation, this happened.
I object to the silencing of scientists. I am very sorry to interrupt your night and this amazing performance. I am a theater artist. I work in this theater professionally, and
I'm sorry, you need to leave.
You're throwing my career under the bus.
Get him out. And you're not recognized.
Let's go.
We got somebody.
Where's the house manager?
They do not have the floor.
The oceans are acidifying. The oceans are rising. It will swallow this city and this entire theater whole. I am putting my career on the line because we are not doing anything about this crisis. The water is coming for us. Broadway will not survive on a dead planet.
And climate change. Don't forget about the truth tellers.
Get out.
This play doesn't end when you leave the theater.
She's right.
This play doesn't end when you leave
not
the
right.
theater.
He's right.
It's all
Crazy, right? That's so wild that happened. Well, that video came across my feed, and since I'm a total theater nerd and I was a theater major in college, I responded and made this video.
I object to the silencing of scientists. I am very, very sorry to interrupt your night and this amazing performance.
Tellers. This play doesn't end when you leave the theater.
She's right.
This play doesn't end when
This is so crazy. These climate activists actually came in and interrupted this Broadway play. They interrupted this production of Enemy of the People that Jeremy Strong is in right now. And what's so crazy about it is the exact same thing has happened every time anyone has ever done a production of Henrik Ibsen's Enemy of the People or a production of an adaptation of Enemy of the People, because it's actually a thing that happens in the script. It's just a thing that happens in the play, is they're having this scene where they're having this like community council and people get up in the audience and interrupt it. And the discourse that's taking place in the comments of this video is actually the entire point. That's what's supposed to happen. They want people to be having this conversation. Is this part of the play? Why isn't anyone doing anything about this? Maybe we should hear them out, have the conversation. This person even said, I'm really glad that they stayed in character. It really fits with the themes of the play. But like, it doesn't just fit with the themes of the play. It is the play. It is the climactic scene in Enemy of the People. But well done to this production for pulling it off in a way that felt real and authentic for the audience and for people who watched this semi-viral video clip. Because, you know, climate change is bad and does need to be talked about and dealt with. Funny story, when I was a freshman theater major in college, I'd never heard of Henrik Ibsen, and there was a guy that I went to school with who was an upperclassman named Ibsen Santos. And one day I heard a bunch of my classmates talking about how Ibsen was the father of modern theater, and not knowing who Henrik Ibsen is, I assumed they were talking about our classmate Ibsen Santos. And I remember just thinking like, whoa, that is high praise. Ibsen must be really good at theater.
So yeah, anyway, there it is. That's the gist of it, right? This is something that happens in various productions of An Enemy of the People. Just like Nora leaving her kids at the end of A Doll's House, this kind of community council scene in An Enemy of the People, where it's scripted that people from the audience are going to participate and sort of interrupt the performance, that's also this sort of radical moment in this play. It's sort of the thing about this play that makes people want to produce this play. But anyway, I posted my video response to my TikTok and my Instagram, and wouldn't you know it, Extinction Rebellion, the activist group that interrupted that performance, responded to me and assured me that it was not scripted and that they were there of their own accord and they were not hired by the production to be there and the production did not know they were going to be there and it was a legit interruption, it was a legit protest. And then Michael Imperioli responded to me. Christopher Moltisanti from The Sopranos got up in my comments and was like, no dude, this was not part of the show. And there were all kinds of other people showing up in my comments like, no, this is not part of this production. I went on another night and this did not happen. This was the only night that this happened. This was a legitimate interruption. This was a legitimate protest. The police got involved. People left. Extinction Rebellion is facing charges. Given all of that clear evidence, there's just no way that this was staged or coordinated. Right? Well, not really. Sorry to be a bummer, but none of this stuff really qualifies as irrefutable evidence that this wasn't a staged or coordinated event. Even the police getting involved. An activist organization like Extinction Rebellion is totally used to getting in trouble with the authorities. Getting arrested and catching a slew of charges for a group of public disruption activists is just like a Tuesday. It's just part of the gig. In fact, it's kind of a bad look in that line of work if you don't get arrested every once in a while. You're supposed to get in trouble with the police. That's how you know it was a successful protest. If you're not getting arrested from time to time, what are you even doing? Remember when Sacha Baron Cohen broke into that fashion show for that scene in Bruno? He got so arrested for that. He got super arrested for that. And that was just like a bit he was doing for a movie. Like, Extinction Rebellion is a legitimate activist organization that carries out legitimate activism. They're not just gonna come out and say, "Yup, you caught us, random internet mustache guy. This was actually all staged and fake." And Michael Imperioli, as one of the main actors in the show, is certainly not going to come forward on social media and admit that this was all planned. I do just want to say to anyone involved in the production or anyone who was a fan of this production, I think this is a really cool move that this production is doing, and I understand that I'm being the asshole here. I get that I'm the guy at the magic show who's standing up in the audience and going, "There's a mirror under that table, he's not really disappearing behind it, it's just a mirror." And I'm the jerk in this scenario who's breaking the illusion. But I think it's worth talking about because I actually think that the way that they've gone about accomplishing this moment from this very famous play is pretty cool. The thing that historically made An Enemy of the People such a popular revolutionary piece of theater is the fact that the audience wasn't aware the performance was going to be interrupted in this way when it was first performed. And that's sort of the challenge that any company who wants to do a modern adaptation of this piece is faced with. How do you surprise the audience with this moment? How do you make it feel real and authentic and new? I think it's a pretty brilliant idea to say, here's how we're going to do that. We're going to have the community council scene on a nightly basis where we invite members of the audience up on stage to participate, and we're going to do it in this structured, scripted way on a night-to-night basis, but then we're going to have just one night during the run of our show where all hell breaks loose and an actual activist organization shows up and interrupts the show for real. And that's how you make it feel real. That's how you pull off the illusion. If Extinction Rebellion is showing up every night, then everyone knows that it's staged. As soon as this video hits the internet, everyone goes, "No, I was there last night, the exact same thing happened, just with a slightly different script." But the fact that Extinction Rebellion's involvement in this project was limited to only one night is what makes it work. It's what gives this moment plausibility and credibility. It's what makes this moment feel real. And look, I could totally be wrong about this. This absolutely could have been a real, legitimate, spontaneous moment of real, unscripted, unplanned protest, and I can't definitively prove that it was or wasn't. But it does feel more than a little convenient and more than a little coincidental that Extinction Rebellion chose to interrupt the one play on Broadway right now that famously includes a scripted interruption from the audience. Like, if you actually wanted to disrupt Broadway and carry out an unscripted, unplanned night of protest, and you wanted the world to believe that this protest was legitimate and unscripted and unplanned, wouldn't it make more sense to just, like, interrupt Wicked or The Lion King or something? But this is where things get really interesting. I feel pretty confident that there is a healthy enough amount of dramaturgical evidence to suggest that this was indeed a planned, scripted, intentional part of this particular production of Enemy of the People. So let's just assume, for the sake of argument, that that is the case. The question then becomes, if the protest was indeed planned, if it was a staged event that was coordinated between the production team for this play and Extinction Rebellion, does that mean that the protest wasn't real? Because that seems to be where the debate about this event always winds up. It's this question of, was it real or was it not? And it seems like what makes it real or not in a lot of people's minds is this question of whether or not it was staged, whether or not it was intentionally part of this production. So if it's not staged, if it's not scripted, if Jeremy Strong and Michael Imperioli and the people behind this production had no idea that Extinction Rebellion was going to be there that evening, that means for a lot of people that it was a real protest. But if it was staged, if it was coordinated between this production team and Extinction Rebellion, that means for a lot of people that the protest was not real.
This is a fake!
Yes, but it's a good fake. Ow.
But why? Why is that? Extinction Rebellion is a real activist group. They are regularly carrying out and performing legitimate acts of legitimate protest. The activists who were at the Circle in the Square Theater that night definitely really believe the things they were saying. And the things that they were saying are true and accurate. There is no Broadway if New York City is underwater. This activist who's telling the audience to remember all of the people who have laid down their freedom and laid down their lives in service of climate activism is talking about real people and real things that really happened. So why do we have this idea that the possibility that these may have been paid actors makes their message illegitimate or insincere? When Jeremy Strong speaks up in that clip and says, "She's right," yes, in this scenario, he is portraying the character in the play who would say that, and Jeremy Strong notoriously does not like to break character. It makes sense that his character would say that in this situation, but also it makes sense that Jeremy Strong, the person, would say that in this situation. Because Jeremy Strong, the person, believes that climate change is real, believes that the climate crisis is real, and is a real problem that needs to be dealt with. Does the fact that in this situation, Jeremy Strong is a paid actor who is in that room because he is being paid to play a character in a play diminish the fact that Jeremy Strong honestly believes what he's saying in real life? Does it make that belief of his any less authentic, any less sincere, any less real? I can tell you that as a professional actor, I get hired to play characters all the time who have beliefs that I do not share. And sometimes I get hired to play characters who are basically just me. Like everything that they think, I would think. Everything that they say, I would say. Regardless of how much or how little I happen to relate to whatever character I've been hired to play, it's my job as an actor to find the truth of that person, to find the humanity of that character. A lot of people like to say that actors must be really good liars, and I think that, and I know that this is just like so corny what I'm about to say, but actors, when they're doing their job properly, are actually truth tellers.
Oh my god, corny, lame, boo, tomato.
And sure, the actor is just reading lines that were written down for them in a script. But if the actor is doing their job properly, they're hopefully going to find a way to tell the truth with those lines that are written down for them, and to make those lines real.
How do I act so well? What I do is I pretend to be the person I'm portraying in the film or play. Yeah. You're confused.
Well, I think that we know that we live in a capitalistic society where people often have to compromise their morals or values in order to make money. I'm a full-time content creator, and the number one way that I make money is with brand partnerships. And sometimes I have to partner with brands who I don't fully agree with, who maybe have business practices that I don't fully think are the most ethical or the most moral. But it's just something I have to do from time to time. And pretty much all of your favorite commentators do this. They all have to occasionally sell things that they're not necessarily the most legitimately passionate about in order to, keep the lights on. And just a side note, anytime somebody criticizes how I get my bag, that's immediate grounds for dismissal. I pretty much just block those people immediately. I am making free content for you that you enjoy for free. That's how I'm spending my days and my life. You do not need to be criticizing the things that I have to do from time to time in order to survive the nightmare hellscape of late-stage capitalism that we're all swimming in. But I think that it's this fact that contributes to the feeling that a thing is not real or sincere if it is being paid for. We watch people who we think of as truth tellers have to occasionally debase themselves for money, and we start to correlate paid messaging with insincerity. And while it may be true that a lot of paid messaging can be insincere or not real, for lack of a better term, it doesn't mean that all paid messaging is insincere. Like, yeah, sometimes I have to partner with people who I don't fully agree with, but sometimes I get to partner with people who I do agree with. Sometimes I get to push products or services that I actually think are cool and good and useful. And just because I'm getting paid to say, hey, this thing is cool or good or useful, doesn't mean I don't actually think that. I actually partner with activist groups regularly, and whenever I do partner with an activist group, I make sure that whatever cause they're asking me to advocate for is something I actually believe in. Because, like, I don't know, if I'm telling you that Taco Bell is good, that's one thing. Taco Bell's just giving me money to tell you Taco Bell is good. I do like Taco Bell, and they're not sponsoring this video, but if you ever see me doing something that feels like a commercial for Taco Bell, it's probably because they're paying me to do that. Except not in this instance. They're not paying me to do this. But for me, it feels like if I'm going to accept paid work to use my platform to advocate for a particular socio-political cause, it should be a cause that I actually agree with and like, and that I actually feel is important. Recently, I partnered with an activist group to make this video about how we should get rid of nuclear weapons. Yeah, like, full disclosure, mask off, I got money. I was paid to make that video. But I think it's a great video. I think it's some of my best work, and I definitely mean every single word in that video. So does the fact that I was paid to make that video by an activist group mean that that video is now not real? Like, what does real even mean if our parameters for what is real and what's not real are just, did it cost money or not? Is a song not real if the artist and the producer got paid to make it? And I guess you could say, like, no art is truly real. It's just a facsimile of real.
From here on out, I'm only interested in what is real. Real people, real feelings. That's it. That's all I'm interested in from here on out.
And in that case, I guess maybe the more important question to ask when it comes to a piece of art isn't whether the art is real or not, but whether the art is effective or not. And honestly, I think that this particular move by this production of Enemy of the People is totally effective. It definitely got my noodle working, and here we are, talking about it, right? You're in the comments saying stuff, offering up your hot take. I think it's pretty revolutionary and radical to introduce a move like this. I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like this in a theatrical production. A staged, intentional part of the production that is intentionally set up to only happen on one night of that production. I don't know about you, but my little theater nerd brain thinks that's pretty cool. And anyway, that's it. That's all this video is. Patreon.com/Austin Archer if you want to support what I do and this show. You know, they're trying to ban TikTok, so I'm going to need some support over there. And if you support me over at Patreon, then maybe you can criticize the things that I do to get my bag. Maybe I'll allow that criticism from you. But if you're not on the Patreon, I don't want to hear about my bag from you, okay? Other ways you can support, you can pick up my double vinyl, Beautiful Things, the deluxe edition. No, not the Beautiful Things, that's that trending song that everyone likes right now. This is an album that I released a few years ago, a few years before that song came out, okay? And the double vinyl is available now on my Bandcamp, that's linked in the description. Yeah, okay, you know, like and subscribe and comment and share and all that stuff. Yup. Go see a play. Go see a show. Go see a play at your local theater company. Get out there and go participate in the culture and take place in the conversations about what's real and what's not, and what's meaningful and what's not, and what's effective and what's not, and all that good stuff. Okay? Okay? For anyone who was curious, Ibsen Santos was really good at theater. And I believe still is. He's still acting. He's still doing it. So if anybody out there knows Ibsen Santos, or if Ibsen sees this, shout out.